You're listening to Enlivening Musings, a podcast to enhance your life so you live fully alive. Sponsored by the Pleasure Fairy app. Download it for more support. Welcome to Enlivening Musings. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Katie.
And today we're talking about our ever-changing selves because what's the only constant? Change. Mm-hmm. So we felt like this was a good thing to just kind of bring to everybody's awareness because it can really help curb judgment. It can help you even embrace your own change, because for me personally, like I think about how much I don't ever want to be a hypocrite, and yet that sometimes makes it so that then I wouldn't be open to a certain change because ... whatever. Mm-hmm. As well as just like how other people are always changing. So being able to accept and flow with whatever it all is, right? Because there's just so many, this is so many options. So we are ever changing. Mm-hmm. And the more that you want to even grow and expand, the more you're probably going to see that. I feel a lot of people who are on self-healing journeys notice it a lot. And, there's so many people who get scared who are like in relationship that they're like, oh, if I change too much, is that going to change my relationship? And then like me and my partner are no longer going to be a match. And just my little 2 cents about that is it's like a lot of times when you're going to do a change, it changes the people around you as well. So you might see the relationship change in a positive way. You might see it first, it's turbulent, and then it gets positive. Or you might see that your partner starts changing in these different ways, because as your energy morphs and changes, other people respond to that and can either kind of keep up, or there might be resistance or whatever. Same thing goes for sibling relationships, friends, parents. There's so many people who, can have this resistance to change because they don't know how ... is going to perceive them and any of that fear. And so there's the invitation to just keep breathing into yourself and your growth and what it is you want to be doing, as well as then that acceptance as you do change, knowing that it's not always going to be the same. I have so many more things that I was going to jump into, but I'll pause for a minute because do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I think that's all very true. I feel like when I look back of when I really started, I would say this for like the healing journey, so cheesy, but it's true. I was scared. I was scared because I was like worried I was going to like lose my way. And so I remember so vividly having those thoughts and really just kind of having moments of just like talking to myself, whether it was like me feeling like I was praying or whatever it was, like to not lose my way basically as I went into these different places, because it can feel scary. And I think that's not just a thing. I do think there is a little bit of, like I always say, the quote unquote, they don't want us to become enlightened. It's easier if everyone's just like mucking around, going to work and doing their thing. It's easier to, I don't know if the words control people, but when you start to just come into yourself, it's just, I don't know. I can't really think of the words for it. It just becomes so much bigger. So I feel like some of those paths are deemed like dark or evil, like even simple things like working with astrology or like oracle cards or tarot or different things that can just bring you closer to yourself. Mm-hmm. I know, all that stuff felt really scary and like bad to me when I first started doing it. And now I think if we talk about change, my daughter the other night was like, Mom, where are your angel cards at? Like, just pull some, Right. And how I'm just like so different. And a lot of it was just like reminding myself not to be afraid of these changes. So I don't know. That's just kind of my experience. It's really interesting.
I think that's a big one. And for me, it was generally like the hypocrisy was the thing, because I try to live so much in truth that it's like if I ever feel like I'm going back on something else, so it's like, the concept of like never say never is one big one, because like I was never going to marry a Capricorn. ha ha. Still laughing about that one. But, it's like any of that, there's so many different things where opening up to different aspects of that, even, I don't know, I can't think of a specific example. But there's just so much more acceptance and so much more fluidity as I like dive into that. And of course, even this, being on a podcast, like I'm thinking of like old episodes and what could have been said then. I mean, we have so many themes that are very, very, very consistent, but there's going to be things that change, especially the more this goes on and we evolve in things, or, we've done things about different products. Products change, companies change.
Yeah.
So like we might change our stance about a product. And
or just different information comes out about different
whatever.
things. Yeah.
Right.
And, I think that is a big thing. I mean, I know for sure when we first started out, number one, I was super nervous just in general to speak probably and just share my opinions and thoughts. And now it feels so easy to sit and do that. And I don't really feel worried about what anyone will think or judged at all. I don't know. It's interesting how that happens, and now I'm like thinking as I'm talking, like, what was all of those, like we said in the last podcast, those deep wounds that were making me afraid to be me? Because that was definitely a theme in my life.
Right.
So.
Right. And then here we have, guests who come on. And so they've got their own stuff and they're ever changing. And so it's like the same thing where it's, we as like hosts will resonate with whatever we brought them on to share. And yet that doesn't mean like that we resonate with everything that person is or says or does, and or they could totally change. And they could become like, I think about a specific person, not who's a guest on our podcast, but somebody who's out in the world. I don't really feel like calling them out, but they used to be really into like angels and stuff like that, and then got completely turned off and changed their entire business and stepped away from all of that. And it's like stuff like that can happen. But if we had them as a guest when they were talking about angels and then like everything changed, you don't have control over that. You don't have control over a person's whole journey or how they are going to change or all of their different aspects. And so again, with like integrity, or again, me with my hypocrisy or anything like that, it's like, we'll bring people on who it's like we resonate with ... And that's all that it is. And then we speak from where we're at whenever we're in where we're at. And any of that could just like ever change because we're just ever changing humans.
I know. I think back to just like different things we went through in the last couple of years, like everybody.
Yeah.
And, that whole time it's cool and interesting to think like we were recording through all that and to be able to like kind of go back and like even listen to ourselves, just like talk and muse about things and know like, oh, but this was going on in my life at that time and how it just changes us and shifts us. But I think being open to change makes us more compassionate and able to meet people more where they're at. And like we always talk about too, it just allows us to stay like vital and healthy and young and keep that plasticity in our brain, which we love. I was just talking to someone about that last night. She was someone who went back to school like at 50. And we were just talking about like, whoa, how difficult that is to go and learn new things. When we're older, because our brain is just like, nope. And I talk about that all the time with like friends and family members, just of how important it is to like do that pattern interrupt and things like that to keep our brain healthy and less like, I just get a visual of people being like really that tight and rigid older person. And you see it in their physicality of how they look structurally, how they have pain where they can move, and also in their thoughts and beliefs just getting way, way too rigid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's like my intention and goal for life is to stay completely open and flexible physically and mentally through it all so I can just be happy
Yeah. And for me, it's like all I can hear in my head is like, yes, juicy and supple.
And that's what does it.
You
and
know?
it all even ties back to the fascial system, because that's why we have pain and we get in those tight, rigid postures, because there's no fluidity happening. It's all compressed in like a dried out sponge.
Yeah.
And you think of babies, they bounce, they fall and they literally like bounce and they don't get hurt. I mean, you try doing that even for me now in my 40s. No, like there's no way. I think about how I used to be able to like dive for the basketball, like on the floor. I'm like,
Right.
there's no way I would do that right now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Talk about even our bodies changing. How when we're younger, we're able to just do that stuff and not break anything and like actually keep running up and down the court in a basketball game.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But you know that's just a big part of it is keeping our bodies and minds. It's all connected, soft, supple, and open, and that is what I love seeing, the transformations that take place with my patients when they get that yes, they're feeling better physically, sleeping better, all their symptoms are down, but they are starting to tune into themselves and realize so many things. And maybe it means going to work with another practitioner of some sort. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
go spread your wings. It's so beautiful. I love it so much.
And it just amplifies all that aliveness for each individual.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, we hope you've taken away some deep knowingness that change can be a beautiful thing and to embrace it and keep it all flowing and the acceptance of that in others as well. Wink, wink. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like more support, hop on the Pleasure Fairy app or find Katie at wellnesswithkatie.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Enlivening Musings if you want to share some takeaways or other requests for future shows. Enjoy.